I wasted 15 years of my life lifting weights. I put way too much time into working out, and it significantly impacted my life in a lot of ways. It really had serious negative effects on a lot of my relationships in the past. It meant that I spent a lot of time in the gym that was probably better spent doing other things. It also meant that I was doing silly things like losing sleep to work out at midnight, or working out at midnight on a Friday night because I just felt like it and because I wanted to get my workout in, and I was prioritizing my workouts over everything else in my life. There was also a time period in which I lived in Michigan, and I was basically working out of the garage, the house that I was living in, and it was not heated. I had a squat rack, I had a barbell, I had some weight plates. All I had was a little space heater that, obviously didn't really warm up the room very much. It certainly didn't warm up the barbell. And so I would be lifting weights, and I could not hold on to the bar for very long because otherwise I was going to give myself frostbite from holding on to this incredibly cold hunk of metal in the middle of winter. And of course, I would have to then sit in front of the space heater with my hands in front of the space heater between sets, so that my hands would be warm enough to pick up the barbell again on the next set. I did all kinds of stuff like that, and a lot of that was stuff that was ultimately a waste. Just a huge waste of my time. Before we continue, if you're new here, my name is Adam. I have been lifting weights for over 15 years, as you can probably guess from the title of this video, and I have been a coach for 10 of those years. I have helped hundreds of clients to attain their own fitness goals, and so, this is not a brag. This is me just explaining to you why I speak from authority when I say the things that I am about to say about how a lot of that time that I spent was ultimately wasted. Don't hesitate to smash that like button to help level up the channel. As always, I'm also generally accepting new online fitness coaching clients, so if you are interested in being the most Himbo possible version of yourself, don't hesitate to reach out via the link below, and I will be in touch pretty shortly. So when I was younger, I've told a lot of people about this, I got into lifting weights as a way of helping me to get out of a very dark phase of my life that happened around the time that I was 16. So at the time, I went to see a therapist because I was having issues with depression, anxiety, and suicidal ideation. And basically, I went to my therapist and he said, well, you should probably start exercising to help you manage your anxiety. And at the time, I was mostly doing distance running. I had been a cross-country runner, a track runner in my school teams, but I really didn't enjoy distance running at all. Hated it, just absolutely detested it. Didn't like any second of it. I just kind of did it because I felt like I had to do some kind of exercise to, be healthy. And so I didn't really know anything other than running. And so when my therapist suggested that I started doing some kind of workouts, I went to my local YMCA and I decided to try lifting weights instead. Of course, I was immediately hooked. One thing led to another. And now I am sitting in front of you today talking about how I have been lifting weights for the past 15 years plus, which is now over half of my lifespan that I have spent lifting weights actively in some form or another. And the important thing here is that I didn't just want to lift weights, it was that I wanted to be the absolute best. So starting out as an impressionable teenager, obviously I got really excited about lifting weights and I thought, oh, I want to be the most jacked, the most strong, the most shredded possible athlete, the most shredded possible lifter in the world. And so I would look up to figures like Bruce Lee, like Arnold Schwarzenegger, and basically I would spend all my time on the internet combing through blogs, combing through forums, combing through the bodybuilding.com forums, that's a blast from the past, looking for basically anything that I could to improve my training, to improve my diet, because I was fully convinced that essentially the way that I could become the best possible version of myself was simply by unlocking progressively more and more secret techniques, esoteric knowledge, whatever it was that would take my training, my diet to the next level. And I just kind of believed that there would always be more that I could learn, more that I could improve on, and more ways that I could just be a better lifter and therefore get better and better results indefinitely. And I believed that I had to be as hardcore as possible. And that meant that I had to spend hours and hours in the gym every training session. I had to constantly try and do the most possible to put in the most possible effort so that I could become the most jacked, shredded, strong lifter in the world. And I really did believe that if I did all of that, then I could become, like there were those early fitness influencers who basically just became famous because of how jacked they were. And I kind of wanted to be like that. I believe that that was kind of the future that lay ahead of me if I just put in enough effort, and I would see all of those results that I was looking for. And then things did shift a little bit when I realized that I just didn't like the diet side of things too much. I just didn't have the tools to really enjoy managing my diet. And so I was kind of like, okay, what can I do that involves not worrying about my diet so much? Because bodybuilding certainly relies a lot on that when you are doing physique-focused goals. And so I decided to shift into powerlifting, because powerlifting is a lot more focused on just your training, the effort that you put into it, less so on the stuff that you have to do diet-wise outside the gym. But it was still the same thing. Now it was no longer just, hey, I want to be as jacked and shredded as possible. It was more like, hey, now I want to be as strong as possible. I want to be superhumanly strong. I want to set world records. I want to be the best that there is. And of course, if I train as hard as possible, then certainly I believed that I could accomplish that. The end result of this belief was that I wasted a massive, massive amount of time. Now, I'm going to talk now about some really, I don't want to say uncomfortable truths, but some truths that are something that we don't talk about as much in the fitness industry as maybe we should, because these are truths that the fitness industry doesn't want to admit because they can easily monetize on sort of misleading people about these truths. So the first and most important is simply that genetics matter a lot more than people tend to think. Genetics really are the single biggest factor when it comes to kind of the results that you're going to get out of exercise. You can take 100 people and you can put them all in the same good training program. And at the end of the day, some of those people are going to be incredibly jacked. Some of those people are going to see almost no results at all, or maybe even negative results. And the vast majority of people are going to see pretty average results. That's just what's going to happen because that's how the genetic sort of function of things works. And so at the end of the day, yes, there's a lot to be said about the way that mindset and belief has a really huge impact on things. And so actually believing that you have good genetics can actually kind of overpower having bad genetics, or, sort of the placebo effect of having a really strong belief in your ability can actually, enable you to do much more than if you just kind of don't believe in yourself. At the same time, again, at the end of the day, there is still that underlying genetic factor, which is still the single biggest determinant of what kind of results you're going to get out of the effort that you put in. If you don't have world-class genetics, you're simply not going to become a world-class athlete. That is all there is to it. At the highest level of athletics, it's not really about who's, training the hardest or who's trying the hardest or who has, again, the most secret knowledge that they need to. It's more about which person just has the better genetics, because that is what's really going to determine who really wins in the end. That's not, again, to say that all that other stuff doesn't matter. It certainly does, and quite a lot, but it's going to be something where you need to have kind of all these different things working together for you to become a world-class athlete. And genetics is the one that you don't have any control over and that has a really huge impact on things. I would say now, 15 years later, having a lot more experience, I certainly have above average genetics. I am certainly stronger, a lot more jacked than the average human being. I've certainly gone a lot further than most people. At the same time, I'm never going to be world class. That's simply not really possible for me because my genetics are simply not that good. They're good, they're not that good. That's just sort of the reality of the situation for me. And that's the reality of the situation for the vast majority of people who pick up some kind of exercise program, because by definition, the number of people who are going to be world class are just going to be like a shockingly, it's like a fraction of a percent. It's like the smallest possible number of people are actually going to have that capability of really competing at a world class level. I'm also going to mention drugs. Drugs matter a lot, not maybe as much as people tend to think that they do, but they also do matter a lot. And they're also something that can have significant drawbacks in terms of negative impacts on your health. Many people are not willing to risk it, and that's always going to be something that is going to hold you back if you're not willing to risk it. It's always a additional source of gains that you are basically keeping off of the table if you're not willing to take that risk. And so if you're not going to, you're simply not going to be able to get to be sort of the best possible version of yourself, because that's just, again, the reality of the situation, and it kind of sucks, but that is what it is. Now, here's the one that is probably more important to our specific discussion, and that is that there are significant diminishing returns to additional training. And this is something that people talk about a lot, but I don't think people really understand the real implications of what this means in terms of your exercise program. So what this means is that, let's say that you have one workout per week. You're going to get basically all of your gains from that one workout per week. You're going to be a lot stronger. You're going to be in a lot better shape than if you didn't work out at all, obviously. Now, the thing is, when you add in that second workout per week, that does not double the results that you're getting. In fact, you're going to get a small fraction of the results that you got from that first workout, because there are diminishing returns to basically every workout after the first one. So that second workout is going to have a small fraction of the results of the first. That third workout is going to have a small fraction of the results of the second, and so on. And so the end of the day, yes, you can always be a little bit better by continuing to work out harder, by continuing to get in more training sessions, do more work, etc. But it's going to be a really, really, really small effect. And most people are going to get most of their results out of just doing, say, 2 or 3 workouts a week and just calling it quits and going home and just spending their time doing other things. And that's going to be more than enough for most people. If it's the difference between, say, doing 3 workouts a week and getting, say, 90% of the results, and then doing an additional 4 more workouts per week and getting an extra 10% results, most people are going to look at those extra 4 workouts and say, well, that's not worth it at all. I've got other stuff to do in my life. Certainly, there are some people who would benefit from those extra few percentage points that they can get by continuing to train really hard. But that extra few percentage points is only really going to matter to you very much if you are somebody who is already at, say, world-class level, where just, like a small fraction of a percentage of a point may be enough to sort of differentiate you from your competitors, because you are trying to be as best you possibly humanly can, and you have to be better than everybody else. So the reality is that there is actually no reason to do a lot of hard training for most people, because if you are not an active competitor, you probably shouldn't train like one. It's not really going to enrich your life. It's going to mean a lot of wasted time spent in the gym for essentially no real reason. And this is something that the fitness industry doesn't want to talk about, right? This is something where the fitness industry wants to talk about, no pain, no gain, and the maximum of working out as hard as you possibly can, and you've got to be super hardcore, and you got to, put all the effort into it possible. And I really drank the Kool-Aid on that for a really, really long time. I put in so many hard workouts, I did so much excessive work that I really didn't need to do. I did things like when I basically found out that Bruce Lee used to do like hundreds of crunches every day to develop his abs, I would sit down and I would do hundreds and hundreds of crunches in a row while I'm watching TV. I'd, do like an hour of crunches every day. And it's like, I'm not really building abs. I'm not really seeing any benefit in terms of like it, making me any better at the other exercises that I was training at the time. So I don't know really why I did all that. It was a really bizarre fitness goal that had nothing to do with what I actually wanted to accomplish. And so I still don't know why I spent so much time doing so much core work, so many crunches, other than that I just kind of wanted to imitate a person that I admired, and that was a waste of my time because it's not like doing all those crunches turned me into Bruce Lee. The reality is that it is generally just healthier physically, mentally, emotionally, to not be so obsessed. It is healthier to go to the gym a bit less, have a better sort of balance in your life, and just kind of focus on getting in good quality work where you can, rather than constantly trying to work out so much. I used to do things. I would train like twice a day. I would train for hours at a time. I would do 2 hours of lifting followed by 2 hours of cardio. I still do that. I was doing that up until very recently, because in this case, I had a very specific fitness goal that I wanted to accomplish, and I was using those methods as a means to get to that goal. But I also used to just do that in the past for no reason at all when I didn't really have any goal that was related to those kinds of activities, and I don't know why I did it. It was a huge waste of my time. I trained so hard for so long because I believed that hard work was really the key to achieving sort of my dream body and the dream level of strength that I aspired to. And I didn't really recognize that ultimately it's just more about putting in some hard work consistently over a long period of time, and then just seeing if it turns out that you've got what it takes. And this isn't to say that I haven't been massively fulfilled by all of this, of course. I really loved working out. I really do still love working out. It's been such a massive positive impact on my life. I ended up turning that into a career. I ended up turning that into a successful coaching business. And the end result is that I am now a much better person today than I was when I started out at the age of 16, simply because I was an anxious, depressed kid. But if I have to be honest with myself, if I could do it over again, knowing what I know now, I would have trained a lot less. I would not have spent nearly as much time in the gym. I would have focused a lot more on other things in my life. I would have developed a lot healthier of a balance with the way that I was doing things. In the long term, I have a lot of other creative projects, a lot of other things that I want to be focusing my effort on, and I can't really do that if I'm just putting every single spare ounce of effort into lifting weights. I'm still going to be training for the rest of my life. I'm still going to be going to the gym 3 to 4 times a week at a bare minimum. I'm still really legitimately working out in some form or another basically every day because I like to go on long walks. I like to do things where I integrate exercise with other parts of my life. But I am working on establishing a healthier relationship with my training and with my fitness, and just sort of, learning how to accomplish the same results with a lot less effort. At a certain point in your life, it becomes not about trying to become as jacked or strong as possible. It becomes a lot more about just sort of maintaining the body that you have and sort of trying to optimize your remaining lifespan so that you have the best possible, the most enjoyable life remaining for you. If you could train every single day and you saw 0 results whatsoever, you didn't get any stronger, you didn't build any muscle mass, but you also didn't lose any strength or muscle mass, that would be the most massive win in the history of fitness. You'd be the most jacked, the strongest 90-year-old that has ever existed, and you would have spent your later years feeling a lot more energized and capable than most folks who get to that point. Certainly, I am not approaching my later years anywhere near yet, but I am beginning to have that mindset shift where my focus is just changing a little bit and I need to be more realistic about what I want to accomplish going forwards. I enjoy lifting weights and I will still probably do it a lot more often than I should simply because I enjoy doing it so much. But I am going to be focusing from now on developing a healthier relationship and spending less time on doing it so that I have more time to focus on other projects. So, as always, I hope that you liked the video this week. Don't hesitate to smash that like button, the subscribe button, the notification bell. Comment down below, let me know if there's anything you'd be interested in seeing in future videos. As always, have a great week. I will talk to you all next week.